It's Horror Week.
Welcome back to the West Coast Avengers. Hi, I'm your host, Dave. Today, I'm bringing you my interview with Becky Cloonan. Becky is returning to the channel today to talk about her new anthology with Dstlry called Come Find Me. We also talk about a multitude of things, including her experience working with Pearl Jam, as well as meeting deadlines and the life of a comic book artist. Today, my special guest is a returning guest. She does want your skulls. Becky Cloonan is here. We're going to talk about her new anthology, Come Find Me, which is coming out within days after you see this via Dstlry. Her other anthology she's working with called Hello Darkness. And we're going to talk about horror and maybe even some horrible things. But Come Find Me is coming out soon. So let's find Becky Cloonan. Hey, we found you.
Hello, I'm right here. Right where you left me.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So was the original title of this anthology Come At Me, Bro?
Yeah, it was no. It wasn't that not that aggressive.
Yeah.
It's actually Come Find Me is a line from a Sylvia Plath poem.
Aha.
Yeah, and it's so I think a lot of times if I can't think of a title or something like that, I always go back to like poetry or Shakespeare or something that's gonna have like, so many good books and movies have been just like, you take from steal from the best.
Yes,
Sylvia
yes.
Plath, obviously.
And it's got a an ominous feel to it, the title.
Yeah, it could be like I liked it because the line is like it could be taunting, it could be flirtatious, it could be like a dare or like a threat. So
Mm-hmm.
it has multiple, and it has a feeling of like an M.R. James, like kind of one of these old or like a Daphne du Maurier's like Don't Look Now. It has that classic. There's something about it that feels classic. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
that's
had
some,
like a whole list of titles and, none of them were very good. So,
but for would we I mean it's called an autumnal offering.
yeah.
It's coming out on Halloween or
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Like the day before.
yeah, October 30th. Um, would you call it a horror anthology or would you call it something else? I mean, horror seems to be, it's a very broad word these
I would say
days.
they're spooky
Yeah.
stories. They're like spooky campfire stories kind of. It's horror in comics is difficult, I think. Um, some of that is just because you don't have like sound, which adds so much atmosphere to when you're watching a movie or something like that. And when you're reading a scary story, so much of it is in your imagination. So you make up what is going to be the scariest thing for you,
Hmm.
I think. But then, in comics, you see everything's kind of right there. And what I liked about this is everyone kind of brought um, ideas and themes that were just upsetting
Yeah, yeah.
and subtle, and everyone kind of, I, I, I don't. I'd hesitate to call it folk horror because I think some of these are kind of outside that realm, but it has that, a little offbeat, a little, uh, yeah, some of them are definitely folky horror
Definitely.
stories.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's hard to nail down, which I like about this. I like that it's not just like tropes upon tropes, and that it's hard to define.
and we use terms, genre terms, because we want people to kind of like, I think it's like a word association thing, right?
Yeah,
Like you want people to be able to sell something that's not tied to a and this goes for everything, but to sell something that's not tied to a an IP.
yeah,
You got to give people, oh, well, you can, if you like this, then you'll probably like this. So I understand like not wanting to pigeonhole all of it into folk or
yeah.
folk
But I
horror.
definitely think it, I think it falls more heavily in that cat as subgenre, I guess,
Hmm.
than
Um,
anything else.
let's rattle off the names. So here are the people that created stories for this book: HamletMachine, Molly Mendoza, Vanessa Del Rey, Andrew Besh, Celine Loup,
Yeah,
and
and
E.M.
E.M.
Carroll.
Carroll. Yes,
I
all my
uh,
favorites.
I know, and so what goes into curating an anthology? Because this is your first anthology you've ever kind of
Yeah,
done
I've done
yourself?
anthologies before, and I've like self-published some, like group books with friends that would qualify as anthologies. Like I think the first book I won an Eisner for was 5,
Hmm.
with like Fabio Moon, Gabriel Ba, Rafael
That's
Grandpa. Like
right.
it was like it's hard to call that an anthology but it was, and we just made stories about each other making comics,
Mm-hmm.
which it was super fun. But it was like, it's so different from what this was, and that was so long ago too. So I think a lot has changed, and that was just for fun, and this is very serious, of course. No, it was really cool. It was like, I just wanted to do like I was talking with the Dstlry guys, and they have an opening, like a Halloween or an October, I guess, opening in their schedule. And I was like, well, what if I just did like between this and my next book? What if I just did like this scary story anthology? How much work could it be? I could put it together in a few months. If I do it again, I'm like going to start it in January.
Yeah, there you
This is
go.
way
There you
more
go.
work than I thought it was going to be. But it was super cool because I got to just make a list of like, here's everyone that I would want to work with. And I just kind of like worked down the list from there. And a lot of people said no because it was just the timing was bad and summer is super
Sure.
busy. Um, but, everyone on the list was like someone I would want to work with. So I was like, I'll hit you back next year in January
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
next one. I mean, if this does well, it'll be like, I hope it becomes like a yearly thing where I get to do, put something together. And I've learned a lot as far as like how to organize it.
Yeah.
Just I'm not organized at all. This
Well,
year
you're
I'm
busy.
trying so hard to be organized.
I feel like for most part, all the artists and creators I talk to, like everybody could use some type of intern or assistant.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
God. If I would get so much more done if I had someone who helped me. And I'm sure people would like me more too. Like, oh, she actually answered an email. Crazy.
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I can speak at least from my friendship with Alex Pardee. I always told him, I said, if I live in LA, I'd work for you for 20 hours a week.
Oh yeah,
Just to
I
help me
would
out.
too. Alex is great. He's a fucking
Yeah.
delight. What a delightful person.
He just like he's doing, like just like you and like a lot of other people I know, it's just like you're doing a lot. You're doing more than
Just
two
spread
people.
really thin.
Yeah.
It's hard when your focus is on so many different pieces. It would be nice to like, what a great idea to have someone who could help out. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It does take a lot to make the comics. And comics is
But
hard.
But as a tastemaker, I mean, and like I said, I read yours. I skimmed through everything to look at the art. The E.M. Carroll one was mind blowing just to
Oh my
see.
God. Yeah.
And I don't know much about Carroll at all,
Oh
but
my God. I have so many books to recommend for you. Yeah, Ian Carroll's one of my favorite cartoonists. They were doing like web comics, uh,
hmm
and it wasn't like not like I put up a page a week or something. It wasn't like one of these serialized web comics. It was here's my new story, and it's like mind blowing, and it's in the way that like the format, like they would format the comic in a way that was scary when you read it because you were like actively scrolling,
yeah,
you're going
yeah,
across, and then this guy's like digging, he's like going down into a hole, and then you got to scroll down, and you're like, oh, I don't want to scroll because I'm too scared about like what's he gonna find at the bottom of the hole. Um, so good, just like incredible art, like draftsmanship, like every lettering, like God, and every book EM does, I'm like first in line to be like, oh, that's me.
wow, yeah,
Yeah, so huge fan, and I was like, what a like I didn't think they'd have time this summer, but like well, like said no at first, was like, oh, I think I'm too busy, I can't do it, really sorry. And then like a week or 2 weeks later they were like, I could do 4 pages, and I was like, yes. Do it. So originally my comic was going to be longer, it was going to be like 20 pages.
hmm
I because Ian was like, I want to come in, and then Celine was like, can I have a few extra pages? And because everyone was like, if I did 20 and then everyone else had 6, it kind of like was easier for, I can't go in and ask people, be like, hey, can you do like a 10-page comic? I just felt
right.
like it's a little
You're
too long. But if you ask for
mitigating.
6, it's like more people would say yes.
Yeah,
Celine was like, can I have a couple more? And then I was like, I will chop my comic down a little bit and just like squeeze it a little tighter. tighten it up a bit.
Your story portarium is great. I mean,
Thank you.
you know, for an unbiased opinion, I don't have one of those because I'm already a fan of your work, but
Ah,
it falls in line with like there's an ambiance to it, there's a creepiness to it, there's you know, I don't know too much about the ferryman, you know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I know enough to be like, oh, this is something that I'm familiar with in lore. But yeah, and it's always I feel like you have a really good way of, and without spoiling anything, you have a really good way of making people feel not, you know, like they're satisfied, but also at the end they're, you know, you're just kind of like, oh man.
yeah, yeah. I love an ending that makes you like. I love an unsatisfying ending in the way that things don't go well for the characters,
Mhm.
but also like kind of leaves you thinking like there's a little bit left, you know,
Yeah,
like
there definitely
that's
is.
left unsaid. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a beautifully drawn, obviously, and it's cool because I'm excited to read it, and it's 48 pages. I'm excited to read it in the, you know, page by page format,
hmm
um, because I am not familiar with any of these other creators. So, what you're doing as a tastemaker, you're like, oh, these are people I like.
yeah,
You'll probably like them.
yeah. And I'm trying to put it in a way where it's like you're making I kept on thinking it's like it's just a mixtape, you know. It's like you're
Hmm.
putting songs next to each other in an order that feels satisfying when you read it. The art has like a flow to it. Like nobody draws the same in this. Like everyone has wildly different styles, but there's
Yeah.
like through lines and touch tones I think that we all have where there's like a baseline underneath it all as far as like our influences and our inspirations and like, you know, the kind of stories we want to tell. And that all congeals it. And even though it's like, you know, it's not a theme, it's not like werewolves.
Right.
You know,
Right.
everyone was very free to do kind of what they wanted and it all made so much sense. Like when I sent the final PDF to everybody, everyone was so surprised because like no one knew what each other was doing
That's
until the
cool.
very end of everyone saw it all together and they were all like, it's crazy that it just feels good. Like it all tastes good together, you know? We
It
made a
does.
beautiful stew.
Um, I do want to talk about anthologies, but I do want to talk about the in between the stories. You have these black and white
Oh
illustrations of
yeah.
different characters. Where is that? And because you know, I mean, it's kind of waiting to read the whole thing in print. Is that a connective tissue, or is that just cool designs that you were doing with these characters?
Um, it was connective tissue kind of to lead from one story to the next. So it made it feel like there's a little parade of these like marginalia little creature dudes kind of like ushering you through the story.
Right.
And each character that I drew reflected or represented the next story in a way.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so obviously Vanesa's story had a fox in it, and so her character is a little fox with like a
Right.
banner, and you know, it just yeah, there's like certain things that are like representative, and even if it's not like on the nose, uh, I tried to like make it be like, okay, this feels like it would be. And then at the end, they have a little parade. You know, it was
Yeah.
it's very much like the seventh seal kind of. You know, everyone's like dancing away, like me.
It's but it's also another piece of the package of like not wasting any space, like giving you something to look at every page,
Yeah,
but you know, minimalistic in between those stories, so you're not like inundated with so much imagery.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely like, how do I get from? Because there's always going to be like a page or two of like, I don't like when anthologies like butt up like when stories and
Yeah.
anthologies lead one into another. I always want like a page or two pages of like, you know, just space. So
Yeah.
that way you feel like I don't know, the act of turning a page is a physical thing. And it's like such a big part of reading comics.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to kind of utilize that. And then it just seemed like in the beginning, I was like, I got to do something to like, I knew there was going to be something that connects it all, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And there's the woman in the front who kind of leads you out at the end. Um, she's a little spooky, but I like her. Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't like a ton of thought behind it, you know, but
Sure.
it was, and a lot of it's just because I was so rushed
Yeah.
at the end where I was like, oh, I got to draw these things. I did them all like in a day. It was like Monday, but it was supposed to go to print on like a Friday. It did go to print on. And then I did everything on the Monday and I was like, just sent it all to Erica who designed it. And I was like, go,
I mean,
I'm done.
That, like you said, I mean, and once again, it's something you do hear often. I mean, shit, I had McFarlane on, and he was like, "Yeah, we sent this issue to print. I finished it the day before it went to print." I'm
It's
like,
sick. It's so sick.
"Yeah, yeah,
Like, and I always think like one day I'll make a comic that's not like down to the wire. Oh, at the 11th hour, I'm like, I got notes. We're sending. Here's my coloring edits. Like, there's always something that makes it. My next book, I'm really gonna try to make it less hectic for not just me, but everyone else on the team has to
sure,
deal with like my like for like the I just can't get it together. Like, what's wrong with me?
yeah,
I think a lot of people are like this.
yeah." I think as a YouTube and podcaster, I mean, there are some times where I'm editing on Saturday night and dropping the
Yeah,
episode on a Sunday.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's the way. But I just wish I could have one book that wasn't
yeah.
the way. That was just like maybe just on time. Like I don't even have to be early. Just not
No, you
down to
know,
the
right?
wire.
Just on time makes sense.
I just feel bad for like I can deal with it, but everyone else on the team has to also be like, on call for my like last minute, like put this in, please.
Yeah, I felt like were your the mini comics you used to do, those were kind of on your own time, right?
Yeah, of course, always down to the wire. Like I've never done anything that's like not like hectic at the end of the day. I don't know why. It's like it's just
Well,
cool. The cool fates. I
some
don't
of us
know.
work better under our own pressure, but you're
I
right.
do work
Yeah.
really good under pressure. Like I'll get it done, but like, oh my God, can I just not?
Was were most of the stories in Come Find Me done digitally, or was there kind of a mix of people doing, you know, um,
I think
pen
it's a
to paper?
mix. I think
Yeah.
Hamlet works digitally.
Hmm.
Celine works traditionally with digital colors. Celine, she colored all of her own stuff. EM, I think it was digital when I look at it, but I'm not sure, so it's
Hmm.
hard to tell. My pages were traditional, but God, as the prophecy foretold, I had like a couple pages at the end where I was like, I gotta do this so fast. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it digitally because
Oh wow.
it's just gonna go faster. So maybe you can tell which ones were digital or not, but
When I look at
I
it,
don't know.
when I have it in my hands, I'll wonder. I'll
Yeah,
see.
I can't even remember which ones they were now. It's all the whole thing is such a blur. Yeah.
Well,
So I
yeah.
think it's a mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because think about anthologies. Like anthologies have been around since before us. Like
Oh yeah.
the last gasp stuff. The underground stuff was almost all anthologies, and
Mm.
it's just a great long-standing tradition, and it's been coming back. I feel like the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. There's been some great anthologies, and I think the format is fun, and the idea is like less work on the creators because you have like less work. You can still be part of a thing, but you're like, oh, I'm only doing like 5, 10 pages.
Hmm.
And then when they're really tight, I think during quarantine there was like some really big anthologies that came out, like those old flight anthologies. You remember
Yeah.
those? Yeah, it's like there's something really cool about it. Yeah, I don't, and it's just like comics are so lonely that doing a little book with friends is like, oh, we came together, and even though we were alone when we were doing it,
Sure.
we're
Sure.
together now at the end. It's just
Yeah.
really cool. And then to like have my story in with like so many other people who like I love and I love their work, it just feels really good. Instead of just
Well,
being like, this is my own book, which is fun to do, but it's also like, I don't know, it's lonely.
yeah, yeah, comics is a very solitary thing, even if,
Yeah.
you have a studio mate or, whatever,
Yeah.
it's not what it was. I feel like it was less lonely for those guys in the 70s and the
In
80s
the
because
bullpen, going
yeah,
to
they were all
going to work.
yeah, yeah, they were all in New York, obviously, even
Yeah.
like the studio, like a legendary thing. Those guys all had people coming in and out,
Yeah.
so it's different. It's definitely different now. I think probably once it started going more digital, it really became like, oh, I'm gonna have an all digital studio.
Yeah. Digital comics is like I think it does open the door. Like Lisa and I with even though we did Somna traditionally,
Yeah.
we like it just made the collaboration so much easier that we could scan stuff in and send us over digital files and like pass these files back and forth across the Atlantic. And then like work on each other's pages, you know. That's what made it so much fun.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I just recorded again with Daniel Warren Johnson, and he's doing the new book with Riley Rossimo, The Moon is Following Us. Another fantastic like title that kind of leaves the ominous. But they're mailing pages back and forth like it's, you know,
That's
like
cool.
it's 1980, you know, like it's 1980 all over again.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like I can't really remember anything growing up 80s, 90s, early 2000s that was like a straight collaboration. And now we're getting more of these, like what you and Tula did and what him and Riley are doing. I love that.
Yeah, same. I'm like all about it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a fun process, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it also I think collaborating too, like it's easy for me because I'm such a control freak to be like, you know, I have a vision for like how it's supposed to be and like this is what I want it to look like. And it's really nice to let that go and be like, I'm just gonna work with someone that I trust and like I know, you know, we're both gonna like I'm gonna make something that I couldn't do on my own.
Yeah.
You know? And having that exercise of like just letting go and like not having to worry about like every single detail. I only have to worry about 50% of the detail, which is great.
Plus, also, like, it was clear when, you know, with you and Lisa, like, you bounced ideas off each other, which breeds more ideas.
Oh, it's my favorite way to work. Like, I love, like, intense collaboration, you know, anything where it's like, you know, someone, if I'm working with another artist or like, you know, however it works. Gotham Academy was like that with me, Brendan and Carl, where we just would go out all the time and just talk about like dumb ideas. And then so much of that would just make it to the to the final script because it was like, oh, it's so much fun to like, you know, really just hang. I think some of that energy comes across.
Yeah. And I assume Wonder Woman as well was in, you know, a great collaboration too.
Yeah. It's different because it's like you don't always know who's drawing the next issue. So it's like to have, I like it. That's the nice thing, especially working with like Dstlry and stuff, is like the collaborative process. It's like, so, you know, you just have, there's so much potential there. And I think if you work for Marvel or DC, I think you're lucky if you know who's drawing your book.
Yeah.
When you're writing it, you know, so there's times when it's like, that way you can just play to the artist's strengths, you know, if they're really good at action, it's like put more action in there. If they're good at like the, you know, emotional minutia, you know, write more like gravitas and like compel like the scenes, you know, you can like, you know what to like lean into when you're writing.
Yeah.
And I think you don't always know that. So you just kind of write and you hope like, I hope they like the script.
What was it? I never got to ask you, and you know, unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. But what was it like working with Dylan on Punisher?
Oh my God, just incredible! And you know, I'm so familiar with his work because I grew up reading like Preacher before I should have, and like you know, huge Punisher like Punisher Max was like just incredible.
Oh my God,
There's something about his art that's like just it's so solid, like storytelling. Like it doesn't get more. He's not doing anything fancy, but it's like. It's perfect storytelling, and he does the violence and gore in a way that's like it's actually disturbing, but then his art can be so funny too, and like the pacing of it where it's like it just ends up being funny in a way that, I don't know, maybe it's just him and the way him and Garth work together too, where it's like he gets it, you know. Because I'm doing a Garth story right now for Hello Darkness. Every time I get stuck on his script, because Garth writes like very dense scripts, and it's very full of like direction and stuff like that. So I'm trying to stay true to that. But if there's a point when I'm like, I just don't know how to get this panel and make it look right with the other panels that are going on, and like, I always think like, what would Steve Dillon do? And like, it gets me through like any page I have to draw. It's like, how would Steve approach this? Because it's always just the most direct way, like nothing crazy, nothing super fancy.
He wasn't flashy, but he was exactly what it needed. I mean, their run on Punisher between all of the books, you know,
so good.
And the thing that it's funny that you mentioned the humor. That I always kind of laugh whenever he would do a headshot, like somebody gets shot in the head. The way he would draw the face was like is that what it looks like when somebody gets a bullet to the head? Like, it, and I mean, the two of them were, they have a sick sense of humor,
Oh yeah,
him and
for
Garth,
sure.
and so do you, and it's
Oh my
like,
God, yeah. It's the script that we're doing right now is so fucked up. And he wrote an email and he goes, was like, next time we got to work on a comedy. And I was like, you're not having fun? Like, I'm having a great time.
I mean, one of the funniest books of all time is The Pro.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've been reading. Yeah, I remember. It must have been Punisher Max. It was Born. That was the first thing I ever read
Ooh,
of his, and then I just dove face
yeah.
first into Preacher and The Pro, and then when The Boys was coming out, I mean,
Yeah.
just incredible stuff.
It's so, yeah, he's incredible. Yeah. And the Hello Darkness stuff is so much fun. And it's such a weird format too, because it's like each issue is like 12 to 14 pages or something. So it's not
Yeah, I
like,
have the first issue right
yeah.
there.
Oh, look at that. There it is.
Yeah, the Frizzen cover on it.
Oh, God, she's so
Yeah, yeah. That
good.
I have to catch up on it. I did not realize it was gonna. I thought it was only gonna be like 1 or 2 issues. I didn't realize it was 5, 6,
7. Yep.
7.
The war is 7 issues long, so it'll
Oh
be
wow.
the first 7 books. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's very
Sweet.
exciting.
When we talk about anthologies, like you are part of some of the best stuff that's going on right now. And
Well,
then
thank you.
let's talk about another anthology that you won an Eisner for this year.
Oh yeah, this has been like the year of anthologies. I don't know what's going on.
Foregathered on Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
Eric Powell put that together, and it's you, it's Eric, it's Mignola, and why am I forgetting the fourth person?
James Herron.
Yes, James Herron.
Yeah,
A perfect. If Come Find Me is the perfect autumnal offering, then Foregathered on Christmas Eve is the perfect winter offering.
yeah, and you talk about. I mean, I think I mentioned M.R. James earlier. It's definitely spins out of that like ghost stories at Christmas kind of
Hmm.
old tradition. You can see it in like A Christmas Carol is like the perfect example
Yes.
of that, which is so on the nose because it is a Christmas story. But I think a lot of times it's just, you read an M.R. James story and you're like, this has nothing to do with Christmas, but for some reason it feels Christmassy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just, I love that. I love extending Halloween like through to Christmas. Um,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, that's
It.
oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that anthology was funny the way it came about because Eric and I are friends and like we share a studio space. This was before we shared a studio space, but we like, he
Mhm.
lives in Portland now and like I do too. And, so we see each other and we hang out, but he wrote me this like really strangely formal email about like, I'm like, you could have just asked me when we like were out for drinks.
Yeah.
And I would have said yes also. But it's just Eric. He's so sweet and like, very, this is it's such a proper invitation to this illustrious anthology. It was so much fun. And he just let me do like whatever story I wanted.
Yeah.
So I had this Kelpie
Kelpie.
story in mind for like a few years, and I wasn't exactly sure like how it was going to be. And in my
Mhm.
mind, I think it was like more of a 30 pager. So again, like I cut it down. I think mine was 12 pages.
Mhm.
And I wrote, it was like all, I was like, can I just do rhyming verse? And he was like, yeah, totally. I was like, okay, I love poems. So, and I worry that it comes across as like, oh my God, it's cheesy. When you do
I liked
too
it.
many rhymes, but it had like a sing-songy quality, which I think is kind of fun.
It did.
I
It
don't know.
did. And
It's satisfying.
I didn't realize that Kelpie, that like it's a Scottish thing, right?
Yeah,
And it refers to pretty much any water dwelling, kind of creature. So Nessie is a Kelpie.
it could be a Kelpie. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're more horses.
Okay.
Is it like it's like a demonic horse that like lives in the water and comes out and like will don't fuck with it. It'll
Yeah.
just drown you.
Another one of your stories that just, it's kind of like, it's not going to end happy.
Yeah, yeah. And that one's like it's about a Kelpie, but it's about like the ghost of a dude who like rides a Kelpie. So
Yeah.
it's like a double ghost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
which
Hot,
one of those
hot,
is actually the one? Oh yeah, so
a
hot.
hot ghost.
Gotta be hot.
I mean, we've had so many ugly ghosts,
I know.
I think it's nice to shift the narrative.
Yeah.
But no, congratulations on winning an Eisner for
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, I haven't been nominated for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last book I was nominated for was Killjoy's. It was in like the design, so it was like best design. So that
Okay.
wasn't even me, Uh, but it was cool to be nominated a few times, and then it was cool to win a few times. That felt
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about the other win in a bit, but this this is it was such a nice thing to read this book, and like, you're talking, I mean, four completely different art styles that kind of do share some elements with each
Yeah.
other, but it's
That's
it,
another one where Eric did these connective stories between them. I
yeah.
was like, I mean, I'm not one to poo-poo or question the Eisner judges, but I'm like, why wasn't that up for best anthology? Just because his interstitials, he like painted them all. It's like it's
Yeah.
so funny and so twisted and dark. Like, I don't know, I love his sense of humor. And like the whole thing together, it just felt like, man, such a cool package. There's so much thought that and like care that went into crafting that and
Hmm.
putting it all together. I really, it's like one of the coolest books I've ever been a part of.
And you're literally in the book. You're all
I,
in the book.
I am literally in the book.
Yeah.
And the only
Yeah.
thing he was like, because we were talking before we did it, he's like, tell me a little bit about your character, like who you want your character to be. And I was like, I want to be an old woman with a goose. Like just hanging out with like a big Christmas goose. Like, so he took that and like just went. I was like, I can't believe you put in the goose. And the goose is like a main character.
Yeah, yeah, and you all. I mean, you live in a city where there are people that probably have pet gooses that walk around
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
You know,
I haven't seen one yet, but I'm hoping
I
to. I've
tell
seen goats in
I,
our neighborhood and chickens.
yes, yes. I tell people when I lived in Portland for whatever that was, 9 months. The first 2 weeks that I was living there, I saw two separate people walking down the street in the east side juggling. I'm like, yeah, this checks out. Like, this
That's
is
a
the type
whole
of
vibe.
city.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I mean, that's a skill I don't have. So I appreciate it,
Yeah, and just, people walking down the street juggling. I mean, that's,
Trying.
it's got
I'm
its
trying not to be
character.
weird and salty anymore. I gotta be. I gotta just appreciate stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh God,
But
you are so.
it's such a strange city, it really is.
It really is. Yeah.
But it's adorable. It
Yeah.
makes no sense that that it exists, but it's adorable that it does exist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I've lived here for 2 years and immediately felt like right at home here. Have a lot of
Hmm.
friends here. There's so much comic community stuff going
Yeah.
on here, which is great. But that's like the reason why we moved here was for like the comics,
Hmm.
and you really do feel like it's closer, than I think I felt removed from comics for a few years
Yeah, in
living
Texas.
in Austin where there is comic art, like Tully Hamner was like close by and there's a few other cartoonists there, but like you don't see people very often. And I was like writing more too, so it was, I wasn't drawing, so I don't know, I
Hmm.
felt like kind of apart from it. But now I don't know, I've just been drawing so much since I've been here, and like it's like I don't know, it's a cool city. There's always something going on. There's always
Yeah.
like a cool band in town. There's great food everywhere, so
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
complain.
Oh
Can't
my.
complain.
Yeah.
And it rains so much, which is like perfect drawing weather.
Hmm.
Maybe that's why I'm drawing so much. I'm just like, ooh, it's
Do you
raining.
do you feel the also the intensity of the nature that's out there, that's
Oh
out
yeah,
here, adds to the fact that you've been drawing a lot of stuff that's nature based?
definitely. I got a friend who's like avid hiker, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I like the outdoors, but I'm not a hiker. But
Yeah.
she'll like drag me out, and we'll like go do little hikes and stuff, which is nice. So
Plus
cool
the
to be
Witch's
out and about.
Castle. The
The
Witch's
Witch's
Castle.
Castle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I drew
Yeah,
that on
if
my
you
Pearl Jam poster.
that's right.
Well, I
You
didn't
can
draw the castle on my Pearl Jam
right.
poster, but
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to talk about that. But yes, the for anybody that has never been to Portland or the Northwest, but Portland specifically, there's a cool little park in past downtown, not too far, that's got literally a witch's castle, or what's called the witch's castle.
I did so much research on that, and I know exactly what it is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Like, what can you give us a brief little history?
brief. Okay. Well, okay. So the story goes, and I don't remember anyone's names right now because it's been too long since I did the research. But
Mhm.
back before Oregon was even a state, it was just like a territory.
Right.
People were just like settling here, and one guy was like, "I'm gonna have a farmstead," and he like built his little house or whatever, and living there. And a guy from Vancouver was working there on his farm.
Mhm.
And his daughter, who was very young, fell in love with him, and they're like, "We're gonna get married." And he's like, "Don't you dare!" She's like, "I'm gonna do it," and she ran off and got married. She married this dude, and then they ran off to Vancouver together because he's like, "If you ever come back, I'll kill you." And then they're in Vancouver for a little bit, and then she's like, "Well, I got all my stuff is still at home, so we got to go back home and like get my shit, you know." So they're coming across on the river on the ferry, and like the dad is there with like a shotgun or something, and just kills the dude like in broad daylight in front of like a ton of people. So
Mhm.
then the dad like goes on the lam, and then there's like a sheriff or something who like goes on this wild chase, catches the father, and it was the first like official execution in Portland was this guy
Wow.
who owned that land. Um, and he was saying, he's like, my wife is a witch, and she like possessed me and like made me kill the dude. That's like what he claims, on the
Mhm.
stand. And like, in my defense, Your Honor, my
Yeah.
wife was actually a witch. And they were like, whatever, we don't buy
Oh,
it.
wow. Okay, good. They didn't
Yeah,
buy it.
they didn't buy it. And so flash forward 100 years or whatever. Um, and the land has now been like, it was passed on to someone, and then it was like became government land,
Mhm.
and they made what the witch's castle actually is like in the 1950s they built like a ranger bathroom
Ah.
for the rangers and the people who like work in that area because it was all like nature, like a park or something. And then that kind of just, yeah, it's basically like a glorified bathroom, the witch's
Yeah.
castle. But now it fell into disrepair. No
Mhm.
one was paying for it, and they were just like, let's just. And now it's just covered in graffiti, and it was
Yeah.
just a place for like kids to hang out. But it was built on that land that dude. He didn't. No one. I don't think anyone died on that land because it was like at the ferry, which is like far away. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's a whole. There's like murder and like it's kind of a
But
funny, and it's not a short story because I have to explain like the backstory.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe
And it's
that'll
like, yeah, the tangential witch connection, which is just dude was like my wife though.
yeah. I love that though. Well, and now we've just heard the next Becky Cloonan book.
Yeah, right.
If you are not subscribed, hit that button, hit the notification so you don't miss a video. Because it's horror week, I'm bringing you a multitude of videos this week. I have a podcast called Direct Edition. You can find the links for it down below. You'll find some of the interviews that happen on this channel, on that channel in audio form, but you'll find stuff like me just kind of talking about what's going on in my life and different aspects of life in general and collecting. But you mentioned it, so let me mention the fact that this year you did a
Oh, look at that!
poster,
You have it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the program.
for
I drew the witch.
the greatest band of all time program,
They
and
were
it,
actually so good to work for, like just incredible.
yeah, they did that thing where it's just like they're picking hand. I forget the guy's name, and they're hand picking artists, right?
Yeah, yeah. Every artist is like from the city that they have the show in. And then on the back, there's like, see, that's my witch's castle essay that I wrote. Everyone kind of wrote like a sentence on like how it's gonna, and of course, I'm like, once upon a time, like
Yeah,
chapter one.
here's a short story by Becky Cloonan right
Yeah,
here. Funny because you know what's funny about this? You did a show in London in
I did. That's one of the sketches from that
I
show.
own one of those. I own one of
Oh,
those
no
prints.
way.
I
Yeah, that was really
happened
good.
to
That was
be
with
in
Richie Beckett and I did that
yes,
show together.
I happened to be in London that year, that winter,
Oh, no way.
and I went down to that gallery and I bought.
Yeah,
I think I
the
have like
Flood Gallery, I think is what
seven
it
of
was called.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much
But
fun.
congratulations on that because well,
Thank you.
I'm congratulating you because I've loved that band for a long time.
Yeah.
But there were some great posters this year, but you got to do the Portland one and you got to go to the show and
Yeah, that was
yeah.
fun. I was like, I'm on the guest list with her, Jam.
Hell yeah,
Mike
that's
wasn't making fun of me. He's like, come on. I was like, it's true. I am on the list though. Like, how are they gonna know? Who's so
right,
smart? I have to say
right.
it. I have to say the words.
And the Pearl Jam fans are rabid. The poster collectors are even more
Yeah.
rabid.
Oh
So
yeah, and they do such a good job of like promoting. Like not all bands will promote the
mhm,
artists like when they put their EPs up, and like then they retroactively they were like, we want to do more for the artists, so then they retroactively paid everybody
that's
who
awesome.
did art for this tour, because it was like a lot of posters, when you do it you don't get paid in cash, you get paid in posters.
Yeah.
So then it's your job to like ship everything out, which is like is kind of a bit of work, but it needs
Yeah.
must.
Yeah.
You do. uh yeah, so we have like a little rolling station in the basement to like get all the tubes and everything.
They did a great job. They came
Yeah,
perfect. Came perfectly.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's super fun.
And yeah, there and it's funny when we won't even dive into online that much, but there were a couple of canceled shows on the tour, and then
Yeah,
program was like, all right, well, we're selling posters for those canceled shows, and people are like, what? Why are you doing that? And everybody's like, because they're trying to get the artists paid.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like
yeah, totally. It's
that shows how much they care.
Yeah, and I think they print everything up in advance too, so they probably already had the posters. Like, what are we gonna
Hmm.
do? Like, throw them out? It's like even if you didn't get to the show, it's kind of a cool like, here's the show that never never happened.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they're just so cool. It's like really nice to see a band that's like that big, but always so um, supportive of the artists that they work with, and like really, I don't know, you don't always feel that valued, I think,
Yeah,
but this they really made me feel like,
that's
oh,
awesome.
I
They do
feel
that with
valued.
the fans too.
Yeah,
Play 2.5 hours every night with different set lists. It's
yeah,
like,
I know,
that's
it's crazy. It was so funny because we got there and I was like, okay, so it's like, they go on at 10. I was like, they'll probably be over by 11. Like we'll be at home cozy by 11:30. This will be great. And Michael turns to me, he's like, you're not gonna it's not gonna be an hour long. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, why wouldn't it be an hour? And he's like, they have the word jam in their name. I was like, oh no. And then Eddie Vedder gets up there and he's like, no curfew tonight. We're gonna stay up as late as we want. And I was like, no, no plans.
yeah. If for most any other band, I'd feel that way too. I'd be like, I don't want to get home at 1 in the morning, but with them,
Yeah, it was so
I'm
much fun.
okay.
And it was me, Michael, and Richie Beckett. Richie
Yeah,
Beckett was in town, and like I was able to get like an extras ticket for him too. So it was like
that's
so
awesome.
much fun. Yeah. And then he just did a Pearl Jam poster.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
I think I
it's
saw
really
that.
fucking good too. Because he was out here and he was like, yeah, I couldn't do it because he had a medical issue with his eye
Yeah.
earlier this year, so he had to turn it down. And he was like, I really want to do one,
Well, he got one.
and he
I
did,
mean,
and it looks great. Yeah, Richie's so good.
yeah, and it's for them. It's interesting because they have an in-house design team. Like Jeff Ament's brother is half the Ames brothers, and then they've
Yeah.
been working with why can't I remember his name? They've been working with somebody else also for years, like 30 years.
Mm,
Uh, but this year they decided to, I think, do a little bit more for the art community, which is great.
yeah.
That's great. Um, so you did win another Eisner this year for a book that I have been talking about, and obviously, finally people are really starting to talk about this book after the Eisners. But that's Somna, which is
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So much fun. I couldn't believe it. It was like this book is absolutely filthy, and people put an Eisner for like a demon fucking comic. Like
yeah.
what? What?
I mean, I, I think
Irreverent.
yeah, and I think it's just there's enough people out there that want something that's a little bit more dangerous, and it just took a little while for
Yeah,
that because I mean, I kind of keep my finger on the pulse, especially the distillery stuff. And I know you've seen it because you've been reposting stuff of people making reels and talking about this book. A lot of women really getting into this book.
yeah. Somna's definitely like for the ladies. People will be
Yeah.
like, I really like Somna, but my wife like took it out of my hands. I was like, this book is for your wife.
Yep. Yep.
And a lot of people are saying like, oh, my wife doesn't read comics, or my partner doesn't read comics, but I gave it to them and they really enjoyed it. So it's a very like it's a challenging book because of the art switch, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's difficult if you like pay attention. I, and I don't think it's like I think for new comic readers, it's I don't think it's like impossible for them to like. I
No.
think it's a good first book because it is like a little different, and
Hmm.
it does have a lot of like on Lisa's page, especially like the way it reads. It's almost more like prose over
Yeah.
her art. Um, yeah, it's really interesting to hear like the different. opinions. And I think that's the way, of course, the way comics work too, like with the floppies, like magazine style stuff, you're not going to be able to get it on Amazon. You're not going to be able to get it in bookstores.
Right.
It's like comic store only, or like I think Dstlry probably sells some on their website too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's harder to get, and so orders are always lower too, because when the trades come out, it's like there's just more options to get it.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people message me, be like, how do I, like, because I'm always like, FOC's coming. Nobody knows what FOC is. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's hard for the layman, I think, to, and if someone doesn't know about comics and they're like, well, I read like, erotic, like, stories or like romantasy or stuff like that, but I want to get in. I heard this was good. Like, what is Final Order Cutoff?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you actually can't. That's not for you.
That's not right. Right.
But it would help if people would go to their stores and order it. But I know that's like not the way it works. Like people don't.
Especially
please go to your store and order this book, but like no one does.
No,
I say it because it's like this is what I'm supposed to do, but
people want to order it from their computer.
Yeah, it's like you want a one-click kind of situation where you can go in, or you can be like, hey, I know my bookstore is going to carry this. So I do think that there's, with books like this that are like left of center, it's like a period piece, it's an erotic comic, it's like we're not, a lot of comic stores I think are just going to be like, well, the people who come to my store are not going to want this. And so some books like this kind of take a little while to find their home, and I think Come Find Me falls into that as well, where it's like we had like a PDF for retailers to read, and I still think they probably read it and were like, how do I sell this? Who's gonna want this? I think people who want stories like that, it might be harder to get, like in general, like at the start, but once you get something in hardcover, or in like, trade form, there's just more options to buy it. So I always think of like the issues as like, you're just advertising for the trade, really. And that's like what you want anyway. What I like about Dstlry is that even the issues feel like you can put them on your shelf. They've got a little spine.
Yeah.
They look really good. They feel like complete stories. So you don't feel like you're just buying something that's just going to go in a long box somewhere. Then or just like sits around your house and the covers get all wrinkled.
Yeah.
I don't do that at all. But when the trade comes out, Dstlry does a great job of like, oh, here's like a collector, like you want this on your shelf. Here's something that's going to be like desirable. I don't know. It's such a nice format, and it feels like it celebrates the stories.
Sure.
Just in the way that they like treat the packaging of it, it makes you be like.
And speaking of that, this week, a new release of Somna came in the form of an oversized hardcover, which is it's huge
on me. Yeah, it's really big. It's bigger than like and I was like, it's almost like, why? But it's so cool to see like on the uncoated paper, and then with the Eisner sticker, it felt kind of like a little victory lap after the year, because Dstlry's only been making comics for about a year. It's like a little over a year now since The Devil's Cut came out, which is crazy to see how many books that they have like on the shelf. And like, I think it's 2 graphic novels now are out, Somna and Gone.
I think another one just came out. No, a Blasphemous just came out.
Blasphemous just came out. Yeah. So like 3 trades out in the like giant hardcovers in like the first year, which is like, I think that's pretty cool.
No, the output's been great. They got a custom Dstlry box that came out.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's nice to have like if you're a long box person, you can like, well, a short box. I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really nice to have. Yeah.
I'm a big oversized, well, not even just oversized, but I'm a big magazine format collector, because going back as far as the 70s, 60s, like there are so many comics that exist only in that format that never got put anywhere. And I mean, a lot of my sales, when I do my live sales on this channel, I do a lot of rare magazines and stuff, because I want people to know, like, you should like screw your preconceptions of the format. Like throw that out the window and explore. The bigger formats are better anyway.
I like them. I like small formats too, though. Like I love a digest. I love like
Mhm.
the manga,
Sure.
like tankobon size. I love 6x9, which is what the Foregather at Christmas Eve is. Yeah,
Yes.
right there. Uh, I love that too. I just love all formats. Working big is like different, working
Mhm.
magazine size. It does change the way that you approach story
Sure.
because you have more space, and it's wider. So it just like patterns that you're used to change because you have different space to play with.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. It was kind of exciting. It got my brain like churning in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And when I,
I love the format.
and when I say screw your preconceptions of the format, it's like it's just not every comic has to exist in the comic format.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, manga exists in that size because they have space issues. Most people don't
Yeah.
live in houses in Japan or live
Yeah. You
in.
gotta get it
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah. And I just really hope that Somna gets the artist edition treatment. That's
Yeah.
really
Oh,
what I
that
want.
would be cool. Yeah, to see
Yeah.
like all my mistakes. Blown up just real big. Thanks.
But I mean, it is, and for somebody that I own those pages, it's just really nice to see that stuff and the size it was created.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. I mean, if it got artist edition, this would be like a 25-inch tall book or something like that. It's like it's so big. The pages are so big.
Yeah, yeah,
I
but
with Come Find Me, I was like, I'm gonna draw these pages smaller so it takes me less time, but I didn't. And then a lot of the heavy black on that was just because I was like, I'm running out of time, and I'm like,
yeah,
I can't draw this background. I gotta just it's just so many shortcuts.
but your black. I mean, the way you do blacks. I mean, they're really. I'm owning those pages and seeing that stuff in person. It's just like it.
It's a lot of
Your
ink.
shortcuts make sense.
Yeah, this is like the ink I used, and I went through like 3 bottles of this stuff like per issue on some. It's just like just using it.
And Lee's doing the colors on Come Find Me, right? Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
yeah. He did me and Vanessa, I think. Yeah. He did our colors.
Yeah, he does a great job. He does
He's so
an
good.
amazing
He's so
job.
good. Yeah.
I'm gonna be when I talk to Wagner and Jones today, I get to talk about Jose Villarubia doing their,
Oh,
Kelly's
Jose's so
colors.
good too. And he's
Yeah.
such a sweetheart. Oh, I love him so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been in the game, I feel like forever.
Yeah. He's doing the new they're re-releasing all of Corbin's
Corbin.
done at Dark Horse, and Jose is like retouching it all and like making
Mhm.
sure it's like
It looks
it
gorgeous.
looks so good. Yeah.
Yeah, because Corbin was, I mean, he's one of the guys that broke ground on way to color comics in a
Yeah.
way that nobody else could.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy to see like, and you could see him when he was like experimenting with it, and like when
Mhm.
that started, it's like just I don't know, it's so interesting to look at his work, especially in like that big omnibus and getting to see it
Yeah.
all. I'm hoping that they reprint that old werewolf book that he
Oh,
did.
I think I actually have that.
I
I
have
don't
it,
have
and
to
it's
reprint
like
them.
I got it a while ago, and I'm looking at like because I tell people I'm like, oh, check out this werewolf book, and then they go online, they're like, it's like $200.
Yeah, yeah. That stuff becomes, well, that's why I
Mm,
talk about people buying stuff in different formats because it may never be reprinted.
yeah, yeah, I love
Mhm.
having that. I love my book collection.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's nice to know you can just pull it off the shelf and,
Yeah.
go through it. Is there anything you could talk about this new book that you're working on now or a possible Somna sequel?
Yeah. Oh, well, so Lisa and I think we really want to do a Somna sequel. It's unofficial right now. We don't really, when I say we don't have ideas, I mean that I've written out a ton of ideas for it.
Yeah,
Again, it's just a matter of like us finding time in our schedule that like,
sure.
because now she's under her she's doing groupies right
Group.
now,
Yeah.
which is out. I think it's out soon, maybe.
Who's
And
publishing it? I couldn't figure that
that's
part out.
Anthology.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's coming out soon, and it looks amazing. And then she's going to be doing another Dstlry book with a different writer, um, which I don't think it's been announced, so I
I
can't
don't
really
think
talk
so
about it.
either.
But maybe after that, because I've got a solo book with Dstlry after I finish up the war, which will be
Sweet.
done this month, I think.
Okay.
So then take November off. November's my first vacation in like 10 years, so
Thought you going to Thought Bubble?
going to Thought Bubble, going to Japan first
Oh,
for two
wow.
weeks,
I
and
was
then
gonna go to
flying.
Japan in November too.
Oh, you should just do it. Just go. Yeah, it's the first time it's like going somewhere and people are like, why? Is there something going on? I'm like, no, but that's the best part. Like, I'm not going there for like a work thing that I then get to glean like
Yeah.
3 days to myself afterwards where I can like run around and look at castles. But this is like the first time that we're doing just like a straight up, let's just
You
go there and have fun.
you going to Japan and from Japan to the UK?
Yeah, so like around, so we're going like flying over the Pacific, and then we're doing like Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, and then flying from Osaka to London,
Oh
which
wow.
is crazy. And then, yeah, I think there's going to be like French Somna. Somna's coming out in French.
Ooh,
And so it's Four Gathered at Christmas Eve is also going to be like in French too. We're
that's
working on that.
awesome.
So we're doing like some signings in France, which haven't really been announced yet, but like that's going to happen after. So it's going to be like this whole like month of just going places.
That's cool.
So I'm excited to try and find washing machines.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing that I'm stressed about.
The one
Oh,
comfort
no.
thing that you really need.
I know. I mean, I'll just watch stuff in the sink, but that's like on my mind.
Yeah.
Really, like, how do I pack for this?
Oh, your brain, both you and Michael's brains are going to be mush.
I know. I'm so excited. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully Japan will be like just walking around and eating stuff and like, buying a ton of like
Manga.
manga,
Yeah.
art supplies. I've got like so many side quests that I want to do.
You got to go to what's the name of the one big store where everybody gets their zips, their Zipatone.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know, but I'm definitely there's a bunch of art stores out there that I've like made a list of where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I want. I don't want any Zipatone because I'm never using it again.
Yeah, you don't I know you don't really use it, but I was trying
It's
to think of
hard.
what
It's God bless anyone who tries to use Zipatone, but it's like you're just gonna end up with zip everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the times when I've used it, I'd be like showering and then you dry off and you're like, why do I have Zipatone all over me? Why is
Yeah.
it on the towel? Like what's happening here?
I think at this point, Ma Food's made up of 75% Zipatone.
Yeah, yeah. It explains all the moire when I like look at his face.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to go take a visit to Japan Book Hunter to Sean. I don't know if you know him at all.
I don't know if I do.
So Sean is he does
Sean
what I
Wright.
do. Like he's a from the States, and Eddie P was the one who kind of brought him
Oh
to
yeah.
American audiences, but he has a little by appointment only shop where he just has the rarest, coolest stuff, and it's not super expensive. But
Oh,
he's
that's
also
cool.
like he'll tell you all the spots to go to if you're looking for places to hunt manga.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Just
Yeah,
put me in touch.
I will. I will. That's awesome though. I'm excited to see what comes from this trip creatively for you.
Yeah, yeah. Hoping. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to enjoy my time and
All
finish all
right.
my work before I go, so I don't have to work on the road. That's the goal.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll get going soon. I just want to ask about any appearances. Are you besides those signings which haven't been announced, anything else that's coming up that you want to promote?
Well, I will be at New York Comic Con for one day,
Oh, okay.
which I was just in New York for Kodansha House, and I got
Hmm.
to actually talk to Shuzo Oshimi, who did Blood on the Tracks.
I don't know it.
So fucking good. God, he's
I'll,
incredible.
I'll write it
Um,
down.
yeah, that his books are like disturbing, but in the best, maybe the worst way. I don't know. So good. And we got to like talk shop a bunch and like hang out. I was like, you ever want to be in an anthology? Just like call me, dude. That would be cool. But
So you'll
yeah,
be
I
at
was just in New
MICC.
York. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to be. And then when I was in New York for this event, I felt so powerful. I was like, I'll do fucking New York Comic. Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. I can do anything. And I booked my flight and like a place to stay super last minute. I got a surprisingly a good deal. But like, I came home, sitting on the couch, and I'm looking at Michael, and I'm like, I can't believe I got to go back to New York next week. What did I do to myself?
I
Why
did
did I
that
do
this
this?
year with Heroes. I
Oh
had
my god!
I had SummerCon and I was tabling at SummerCon up here in Washington. And
Yeah,
like 3 weeks before, I'm like, fuck it, I got to go to Heroes, and
yeah.
I
You're
just
like, I
went to
can do it.
Heroes.
Why do we do this to us? And then I wonder why everything I do is so last minute. God, can't get anything done. Yeah. So Heroes or not Heroes, New York Comic Con. I'll be there for like a day on Saturday, and I'm doing like
Mhm.
2 signings, I think,
Okay.
which I haven't really announced or anything. I just got on the schedule this morning.
Well,
So
this will air after New York Comic Con anyway.
Oh, well, there you go. So if you're at New York Comic Con and you saw me, great. Hi.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Becky is telling you a retroactive, futuristic
Yeah.
hello.
Hello. Going to Thought Bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have a table there, but I will be doing some signings and stuff, whatever. And that's like it for the year. You know, I don't think I have much planned for next year. I might do the GalaxyCon in Richmond,
Okay.
mostly because there's like friends I want to hang out with, and there's like a tattoo artist there I won't work by. So
Oh, sweet.
I'm just going to schedule cons near people I want to hang out with from now on.
I totally get that because
Mhm.
I went to 3 cons this year and it was like OAX was to do that and then go visit my parents in Florida. And
Yeah.
then Heroes was to like finally like meet Jim Rugg in person and meet Ed's family.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
love
then,
Jim.
yeah, oh, he's great. I went,
Such a sweetheart.
he took me to, for the Eddie P Con, I was out in Pittsburgh for a week and
Yeah.
we went to 11 stores together. It was amazing. Yeah.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, scheduling those types of trips to see friends. But by the way, we'll do the horror movies after I like
Oh, yeah.
pretend that we're over. But yeah, so come find me. We'll be out this week that you're watching this. So go pick it up. I will.
Oh, I think it's on the 30th.
Yes. So I think I'm going to.
That's not. Oh, you said this week because it's going to be in the future.
Yes.
Right. Future.
Yeah. Future. Exactly.
This week.
Yes. I'm doing a full horror week.
Oh,
So
amazing.
this interview is dropping. The Wagner Jones interview is dropping. I have a flip through. I cracked out a House of Secrets 92 and flipped through it on the camera. Did a full review of Dracula, the first Dracula book, a flip through of that, and then the top 5 horror movies will be a conglomerate episode with a bunch of artists.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So come find me. Is in stores. You buy it. If you don't, I'm going to come find you and make you buy it. And Dstlry's available in Somna's available in hardcover, oversized hardcover, both of those. Anything else? And Hello Darkness.
Hello Darkness. Yeah, those are like the big ones. And then of course, Foregathered at Christmas Eve. You know, if you want a spooky stories, that's a really good. You know, also great for spooky season as well as Christmas season. And
Kinetic Collectibles, or your website, actually has original art.
Yeah. My BeckyCloonan.net is like originals and maybe some prints. I don't know. Still trying to figure out like the angle on that.
Sure.
Yeah, I had to shut my own store down because my computer broke.
Oh no!
So I got to get like a new computer to like set up the store again. Like that's a 2025 problem.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah. It's always a pleasure. I can't wait to read this book in person and look forward to the next time I see you. Maybe it'll be in Tokyo. Maybe it'll be in Portland.
Who knows? Let me know.
Yeah. Wasn't that a treat? Becky's awesome. You're going to see Becky again in another video this week for Horror Week, and that's going to come in a couple of days. Don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment down below. Tell me what you thought about Come Find Me. If you've read Somna, tell me what you think about Somna, or just tell me what you think about things in general. Say hello to Becky. Give her a follow. You'll find her links down below. And we'll see you soon on
The West Coast Avenger.